What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Pokemon Orders, bring you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a deck centered around Tapu Koko-GX from the new Guardians Rising expansion. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and click that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton, and lets us do more for you guys. And as for the question of the day, I think I'm gonna have to go with a super generic one and say, what is your favorite Tapu? Now, I could go with the popular answer and say that is Tapu Lele, because that thing is busted in literally every single thing that it is in, whether that's the video game or the TCG, but I'm going to go with a little bit less popular of an opinion and go with Tapu Bulu, just because, I don't know, for some reason, I just like that thing a lot more than the other Tapus. The others seem too, I guess, straightforward, and yeah, I know Tapu Bulu is very straightforward. It's just like, alright, you hit stuff hard, but it just seems very underrated. And I think it is the Tapu that is most underappreciated, but can also destroy teams in the video game that aren't prepared for it. And I'm really excited to see what it's going to do in the TCG, even though I already have seen the promo, so I'm just excited for that to come out. So yeah, let me know which Tapu is your favorite and why in the comments section below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. But anyway, onto the deck, like I said, centered around Tapu Koko-GX, 170 HP, so not super bulky, but still pretty solid for a basic Pokemon. With the Arrow Trail ability, when you play this Pokemon down from your hand, you may move any amount of lightning energy to it and make it your active Pokemon. So it's basically like Busted from Dragonite. Basically, you play it down, move energy to it, and then start attacking. And then 2 attacks, Sky High Claws, 3 energy, does 130. I mean, there's no added effect. It's just very much, okay, 3 energy, here's what you get. 2-hit KOs, pretty much everything in the game. Very solid single attack. And then Tapu Thunder. This is basically just a delete a Pokemon GX. I mean, you 50 damage times the number of energy on your opponent's side of the field. It's like, well, you have too much energy, bye-bye to your active. So yeah, pretty straightforward in what it does. You play it down, move energy to it, and attack. It's just kind of a, well, surprise, Tapu Koko is now coming out. And Aura and I were trying to figure out different ways to use this. He decided to go with a quad Koko way of just continually having Kokos attack and having them move around energy, basically heal them off, that type of thing. I decided to just kind of alter my Raikou Electrode build that I had and go from there with Tapu Koko, add that thing on when Raikous get damaged so you can save energy and save Electrodes. So that is what this deck is centered around, Raikou Electrode with Tapu Koko in there as well, and I've actually had some pretty solid success with it. Now, is this the optimal way of using Tapu Koko? I'm not completely sure, but it's still really kind of cool. And honestly, I've tested this out a little bit, and I would make some changes. But I mean, this line is what I'm comfortable with. It's what I've been using. So this is the deck list I'm going to show you, but I will also suggest changes that can be made to possibly make this deck a little bit more optimal if you guys decide to play it. For the numbers of Pokemon, we have basically 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 of all the main stuff that this deck is centered around. I mean, you have 3 Raikou, 3 Tapu Koko, 3 Voltorb, 3 Electrode, just so you can consistently get an Electrode going turn 2. Play it onto a Raikou, who's normally your starting attacker. I mean, that's the one you want to really just attack with until it gets damaged to the point where Tapu Koko comes in, and then you move at lightning energy to Tapu Koko and go from there. So just, that's what happens. Play Voltorb, Raikou down, try to get energy on board. And then with Tapu Koko, you don't have to use your manual attachment during your turn for that, so you can just play Tapu Koko, get that energy on it, and then keep energy on the board. That way you have other attackers later in the game. So just a really kind of cool keep energy on the board strategy that there is with this deck, and deny your opponent prizes while hitting for 2-hit KOs with all the main attackers. So just line of Pokemon, 1-2 of Shaymin and Tapu Lele. That's kind of what I'm feeling is going to be the standard in the game. I mean, potentially maybe 2-2, but I feel like 2-1 of Lele Shaymin is pretty safe and pretty straightforward, and that's what a lot of people are going to use, just because Lele is also an attacker, while Shaymin is like, well, I just need a couple more cards this turn, so that's what you go for with those two. 3 Raikou, like I said, because you want to start with it. Shining Body keeps it from being O-code too early. Thunder Lance is just a nice, okay, I have a bunch of lightning energy on me, I'm going to hit you pretty hard. And also, well, 3 energy and 3 energy on Koko, just good synergy there. 4, having Raikou attack till it gets damaged. Then you bring up Tapu Koko, just move all the energy off Raikou, be able to heal that up passively in the background with Rough Seas, while Tapu Koko attacks as well. 3-3 of Voltorb and Electrode. Electrode for the Bazap Thunder to get 2 more lightning energies on the board in exchange for giving up a prize. You gotta be very careful with your Electrode, just because you don't want to use it too much, otherwise your opponent will get a bunch of prizes off Electrode and you'll be in a bad position. 1 is usually enough, which is why I've kind of contemplated going down to 2-2, but I really think that it might lose consistency. However, I think 2-2 would still be good enough, so I encourage you guys to try that out for yourselves and then let me know if you like the 3-3 or the 2-2. And I also just like having the option of a second Electrode late game and not having to worry about prizes, or not having to worry about them being prized or anything like that. So I do like 3-3 just because it gives you consistent early game and then also the option late game, and finally 2 Lele, like I said, for the support from the Pokemon's abilities. Now, before I get into the items, I just want to apologize for all the little choppiness of the deck list. They are doing construction right outside my room, and so every time they like do a jackhammer or some heavy hammering or something, I just have to pause it until they stop. That way I can continue recording. So I apologize for that. But anyway, on to the items. As for the search options, we are running 4 Ultra Ball just to guarantee to get what we want when we want, and 2 Level Ball. Level Ball is entirely for the Voltorb Electrode line, just to get those guys out consistently without having to discard anything. 4 Max Elixir gets energy in play very quickly, and just more energy on the board. That way Tapu Koko can arrow trail in pretty instantly, but also still have some energy on board for some backup attackers, and not just have to move all energy onto Koko. 1 Super Rod, I'm actually running this instead of Rescue Stretcher, just because, really, I don't find too huge of a need for Rescue Stretcher in this deck. I mean, yeah, you throw Voltorb and Electrode into the discard pile early, maybe some Raikous or Kokos get knocked out, but I would rather just put energy back in the deck rather than the Pokemon. However, the ability to recur Pokemon with Super Rod is always nice as well, so that's why we're running that. 4 VS Seeker let us reuse all of our supporters, and then as for the supporters, got the 3-3-2 line of Sycamore and Lysandre, just kind of standard in this current format for me anyway. 1 Hex Maniac to shut down like item lock from our opponent, maybe just other things that our opponent relies on abilities for. 1 Lillie because of Lele into Lillie, turn 1, always nice. And something that actually made this deck a lot stronger, well, I mean, first of all, Lele makes literally every deck stronger, but my initial iteration of Raikou Electrode relied a lot on Ace Trainer to knock out Electrode and then Ace Trainer our opponents down to a low hand size. Tapu Lele just makes that strategy that much more effective. We're able to Bazap Thunder, give my opponent a prize, and then immediately Ace Trainer, so my opponent's down to 3 cards while I have a Shuffle Draw into 6. Ridiculously strong combination in this deck, and that's actually why I decided to go with an Electrode iteration of Tapu Koko as opposed to the straight Max Elixir. Now, don't get me wrong. The one that Aura Bomb did is really, really cool, and odds are I'm going to do that in the future. But I really love the combination of Electrode plus Ace Trainer. It's very, very strong. Like I said, it disrupts our opponent while also getting 2 lightning energy on board for me to really just kind of attach to whatever I want, then move around with Tapu Koko. Because notice, it doesn't say basic lightning. It just says lightning. So you can move around Electrode with Arrow Trail as well. So yeah, just Bazap Thunder onto Raikou, Lele into an Ace Trainer. Your opponent's down to a low hand size. They probably won't be able to OHKO Raikou, but when they do hit it for significant damage, you just play down Tapu Koko, move the Electrode onto it, and go from there. So very strong combination of these 3 cards right here, which makes this deck that much better in my opinion. 3 Fighting Fury Belt. You could definitely run Choice Band, but the big thing about this deck is longevity and prize denial. So yeah, while Choice Band does add 30 damage and there's no substitute for the extra 30 damage, this deck does not take big OHKOs, and it really takes a lot of energy, even with Choice Band, in order to take 1-hit knockouts with this deck. So it relies a lot on 2-hit knockouts and prize denial, which is why Fighting Fury Belt fits this deck to a T, just being able to give a little bit more HP to our attackers, and also, I mean, again, just deny our opponent prizes. Just be like, okay, you can take a big hit, but my Pokemon still has a lot of HP. I'll be able to heal that off with Rough Seas. And finally, 11 Lightning Energy, because, I mean, Max Elixir, that's
that's just kind of my standard that I like to run when I'm running Max Elixir is 10 or 11 energy. That way, statistically speaking, you should be able to hit Max Elixir every single time. But yeah, that is the deck, and hopefully the construction will stop by the time I actually get some good matches. So yeah, done rambling. Let's go ahead and see this deck in action.
Alrighty, we have found one against Nacho Mir with a pure fairy deck, and oh boy, it's pure fairy, then it means it's probably running fairy drop, which could lead to some interesting situations in terms of my opponent being able to just heal off too much damage to where I won't be able to get the 2-hit knockout, because that's what this deck relies on. It relies on getting 2-hit knockouts with Raikou and Tapu Koko, because, I mean, Raikou, you have to load quite a bit of energy onto it in order for it to be able to hit numbers where it can take 1-hit knockouts. And then Tapu Koko, yeah, it has the Tapu Thunder GX, which is obviously just a big knockout waiting to happen. But Sky High Claws takes 2 prizes, and we do lose the coin flip, but my opponent lets me go first. So, I mean, that's okay, that's fine. But we do see that my opponent is, I mean, we obviously, well, there's the Fairy Drop, there's the Mega Turbo, so this is obviously a Mega Gardevoir deck, which actually means that Tapu Thunder is going to be able to take some pretty big knockouts in the right situation, which is going to be kind of cool. But I do start off with stuff that doesn't allow me to get, well, that doesn't give me a good starting hand. Like, I don't have a draw supporter, I literally just have a Raikou, and an energy can't even play a Voltorb down. So this will be an interesting start, that's for sure. Hopefully I get a couple good things off of my mulligan cards, because that would be very ideal so that I can actually have some draw support. I'd rather, okay, I get a Sycamore, but I'd rather just not have to get rid of all that stuff. What I am going to do right now is just energy and Fighting Fury Belt up my Raikou, Ultra Ball, get rid of the Lysandre and the regular Lightning. Probably just grab a Voltorb. That way I can Bazap Thunder potentially next turn. And, I mean, I could have grabbed a Koko, but I think I'm just going to play the Lele down. Just, I mean, first of all, I wanted to make sure that I had the Voltorb. And second of all, I wanted to Lele, that way I wouldn't have to get rid of yet another Lightning Energy. So let's Fighting Fury Belt up the Lele, draw 6 cards with Lillie, and wow, I just draw 5 energy. Through my first turn, I drew 5 energy, so that's pretty interesting. And I didn't play the other Voltorb down on purpose, because with Bazap Thunder, you really have to be strategic about how you play it. Just because you can't just play it whenever you want, otherwise you'll be giving your opponent just a lot of prizes, which will eventually put you in a position where you do end up losing. So I'm having to be very, very careful with that. So normally I only want to Bazap Thunder once and then try to use Tapu Kokos to just move my energy around, get energy off of the damaged Raikous or the damaged Kokos, put it onto a new Koko, that type of thing, while still being able to power up stuff in the background. So I mean, that's really what this deck relies on. Attacking with something that won't necessarily go down in one hit, and then when it gets damaged, I just move the energy onto a different Koko. So I keep my energy on board while also powering up other stuff in the background. That way, I mean, I have a backup attacker in the case that my opponent is able to take a big one-hit knockout. So I do get another Max Elixir. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm gonna have to. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm gonna have to get rid of a couple energy this turn. I really don't want to do that, but what I am going to do is I'm going to Bazap Thunder onto my active Raikou. That way I can take a one-hit knockout on this Xerneas. I needed 4 lightning energy in order to be able to knock out a Xerneas with a Thunder Lance. And instead of getting rid of all of these energy, I think I'm just going to hold on to it and then Thunder Lance, get a prize, see if it's something that I can shuffle draw with. And I get a Koko. So that's actually not bad. I mean, at the very worst, I end up Sycamoring next turn, which simply just discards a couple, which discards 1 energy as opposed to 2, because I will have a manual attachment for this turn. And I can play the Voltorb down. Not necessarily sure if I'm going to. Unfortunately, my opponent is starting to get a Mega Gardevoir up, which is relatively terrifying. If that thing gets going, it's going to be very, very, very scary. Luckily, my Raikou is probably not going to be going down in one hit this turn, because my opponent would need I think you need 2 more energy on board. 180, 160. Yeah, if my opponent gets 2 more energy on board, he'll get it. So he gets a Mega Turbo. Does he get an Elixir or another Mega Turbo? Oh boy, he got both. So, 1, oh boy. 2, that's scary. 3, I need a Tapu Koko, and I need it badly. This is starting to look... Okay, if I can't get rid of the Gardevoir this turn, I am screwed. However, if I get a Tapu Koko, I will be able to one-shot this Gardevoir with a Tapu Thunder, which will just be crisis averted, and then I can just start hitting stuff with my Tapu Koko. So, if I can get that, I will be in a good position. Otherwise, I'm not gonna... Otherwise, I'm just... I'm scared. I'm very scared. Luckily, I have enough outs to get Tapu Koko that I should be fine. I do top deck a Shaymin, so I'm going to play my hand out a little bit, draw 4 cards, and if not, I will just try to draw them another way. And I do, luckily, draw into an Ultra Ball, which I'm going to be able to get rid of my Ultra Ball. Yeah, get rid of my Ultra Ball and my Hex Maniac to grab a Tapu Koko, which will get me a couple extra, which will get me the knockout on the Gardevoir that I need. Let's Fighting Fury Belt up that Koko, and then I will be able to Ace Trainer as well. This is where Electrode comes in handy. Now I draw 6 cards. My opponent will only get 3, and then I'm going to be able to one-shot this Gardevoir, and I'll also be able to one-shot the Xerneas on the bench. And you know what? Let's just even power up Raikou a little bit in the back. Tapu Thunder, hit for a whopping 310 damage, knock out this big threat, and take a couple prizes and go right back up. I get a couple VS Seeker, which, you know, not gonna lie, having VS Seeker in my prizes is actually completely okay with me. I mean, as long as they're not the last thing that I draw. I mean, if they're the last thing that I draw, then that just makes me sad. Otherwise, having VS Seeker in the prizes, I mean, that's stuff that you want to draw late game. Like, you don't want to not have... I guess you don't want to go through your VS Seekers early in the game when you don't have the supporters that you need in the discard pile yet. So having VS Seekers as prizes is completely okay with me and is actually something I prefer. Let's see. I have Lysandre, I have Hex Maniac. I'm not going to N, and I'm not going to Sycamore. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and Lysandre in this Gardevoir, because I mean I have the Lysandre in hand anyway. Let's just hit this thing, get it set up for the 2-hit knockout. Even if my opponent plays a Fairy Drop, then that's not a big deal. I'm still able to one-shot a Mega... Or, I'm still able to knock out the Mega Gardevoir from this range. Not one-shot, 2-shot. And my opponent... Okay, if he top-decked that Sycamore, he is just... Wow. I mean, he will have played me really hard. And he does get a second Fairy Drop. So this is where it gets kind of bad. Because with my opponent getting a second Fairy Drop, all of a sudden, if he evolves into Mega Gardevoir, I can't knock that thing out from this range anymore. He does just decide to Geomancy, get a couple more energy on board. Luckily, I do have a couple VS Seekers that I drew off prizes that I will be able to Lysandre in my opponent's Gardevoir, knock that thing out, take a couple more prizes. I even get a Level Ball. So what I'm gonna do, I'm obviously gonna Lysandre in that Gardevoir and knock it out. But I think I'm gonna play the Voltorb. Do I want to play the Voltorb down? I'm really not sure. I think I'm going to just so I have... Well, first of all, I have cards out of my hand. Second of all, that way I have an extra Bazap Thunder later if my opponent manages to, like, knock out this Tapu Koko and I need to get 2 energies on board in one turn. I would have a Bazap Thunder available to me. Yeah, it gives up a prize, but at the same time, it gets me 2 energy on board, and if my opponent knocks out a Koko, I have 2 prizes to play with. So I can kind of just try to work from there. I get End. That's to be expected at this point in the game. That's my opponent's optimal play. I draw into an N. So my opponent's just going to retreat his Xerneas into his Gardevoir and Life Leap for 20. I mean, that's not a big deal at all. I even get an Electrode. So I'm going to play that down. But I'm not going to Bazap Thunder just yet. I literally am just going to Sky High Claws, hit this Gardevoir for 140, make my opponent have to keep moving his Pokemon around if he wants to avoid getting KO'd. Because I can knock out this Gardevoir at this point, brings up a Xerneas. Either of the Xerneas, I'll be able to one-shot that thing with Sky High Claws. Even if my opponent, like, Lysandres something up, I can Bazap Thunder and then potentially try to draw into a... I can Bazap Thunder and then try to draw into a Tapu Koko, which will allow me to move my energy back onto that... well, not back onto, but move my energy onto that Koko and bring it active. So I'm just kind of hedging my bets at this point by playing the Electrode down but not Bazap Thundering. Because, I mean, worst case scenario, he Lysandres up a Raikou, I Bazap Thunder and then retreat. I mean, that's always an option as well. We do see the Spirit Link come down onto his Gardevoir. However, I mean, even if he Mega Evolves, even if he hits a Fairy Drop at this point, he will not be able to avoid the knockout. So he does make a smart play, just retreats into his other Gardevoir. I have an N, drawn to another N, so I might as well play it, and I top deck a Sycamore. There we go. So at least this way I'll be able to draw some cards next turn. I mean, I honestly don't think there's a way I can... Well, okay, there's always a way I can lose. I don't want to say that. There is always a way to lose a game. However, at this point, I think I'm in such a good position that my opponent has to have, like, double Fairy Drop and then a Xerneas Break. He has to have a big combination of stuff in order to be able to keep from losing. So my opponent does just VS Seeker. Why would you grab an N? I have one card. I mean, he might have gotten an inkling that I got something good, but why would you N? You would get more cards off a Sycamore, and especially if you're trying to dig at this point, I don't get why you would do that. But my opponent is just going to Life Leap, heal up some damage. Doesn't matter at this point. I will be able to just Sky High Claws for the win, knock out the Gardevoir, and yeah, my opponent just realized that there was nothing he could do at that point to delay my victory any further, so he did just attack with the Gardevoir. I'm guessing he was trying to do the Fairy Daily Challenge, and any little bit of damage helps. So, I mean, yeah, that was a pretty solid first game. You got to see exactly what the deck does, like play down a bunch of energy, try to get it on the board in any way possible, and then when you need to bring in a Koko, slap it down and move the energy onto it, and go from there. Didn't get to do the kind of cool Koko into Koko trick where I play down one Tapu Koko, let it get damaged, and then I play down another Tapu Koko, move all the energy off my damaged one, move the damaged one to the bench, and then I'm attacking with another one. So hopefully I can do that in the next one, but either way, that was a pretty solid match, but let's try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against Shevki M98. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. We do lose the coin flip. Maybe this guy will let us go first as well. Like the last guy did, maybe, possibly. But, I mean, either way, I have... he doesn't. But either way, I have no idea what deck my opponent is running. We do mulligan, so... Yeah, that's a thing. Maybe... Okay, maybe the Lunala and Solgaleo are indicative of something, but I'm honestly not going to bet on it, just because, I mean, those are just cool sleeves and box art to begin with. Alright, I get a Raikou. Oh boy. So this is not a good start. Once again, I don't get a draw supporter or any way of getting a draw support or any form of draw. So, I mean, that's kind of weird because I run the same amount of draw in this deck or ways of getting supporters that I do in a ton of my other decks. So my opponent, ooh, just Max Elixirs and attaches, and alright, just what I wanted, another Lightning Energy. So what I'm going to do is just attach to the Raikou, play a Voltorb, and pass. Just kind of pray that my opponent doesn't get the cards that he needs to in order to be able to knock me out this turn, because otherwise I'm just going to kind of lose horribly. He does play another Darkrai down, plays an energy onto the active. I mean, this is very obviously a Turbo Darkrai deck if I didn't say that. And I get a Lele. Ooh. So do I want to hold on to that? So let's go ahead and play an energy onto the Raikou, play an Electrode down. And then I could Lele for a draw supporter, but what I think I'm going to do is just bring up the Darkrai that has 0 energy on it, and then Bazap Thunder. Hope that my opponent doesn't get like a draw supporter off of his prize card. So I mean, I'm just kind of trying to really play the odds at this point. And then I'm gonna go ahead and Lele. Just in case my opponent did get something good to where he could knock out my Raikou this turn. I want to have another Pokemon down, and yeah, let's just grab an Ace Trainer, threaten it for next turn,
and then Thunder Lance the Darkrai for 130 damage, and yeah, go from there. If my opponent isn't able to get anything... Okay, so he gets a Trainer's Mail. I don't know if that was off the prizes or... Either way, I still think I made my best play. Get damage onto this Darkrai, because my opponent is not in a position to be able to knock me out this turn. He has to get quite a few cards. I would really, really, really like to get a Fighting Fury Belt onto my Raikou. Like, that's pretty essential. My opponent... Ooh, Team Flare Grunt. That's not good. That's actually really annoying. So I gave up a prize essentially... Okay, I mean, I gave up a prize for the ability to put the Darkrai in range of being knocked out next turn, which I guess is a pretty decent trade-off. I get a Koko. Ooh. Do I want to play that now, or do I want to wait? I think... I don't know. Should I play it now, or should I just Ace Trainer and then try to draw into it? I think... I want to save the Koko for when my Raikou gets damaged by a Dark Pulse. But okay, unfortunately I don't hit it. I don't hit anything. So I am just going to Max Elixir, try to get some more energy into play. I didn't hit anything in the way of getting a Fighting Fury Belt or something else. But I will be able to knock out this... I will be able to knock out the Darkrai. I draw into another energy, and... Yeah, in a pretty solid position at this point. My opponent, what does he need? He needs 2 more energy into play in order to be able to knock out my Raikou in one shot. So I think I'm okay. I mean, admittedly, Turbo Darkrai, if he just hits a Max Elixir in an attachment, then I die. But otherwise, I think that that Shining Body should be able to come through and give me the damage reduction that I need in order to be able to live the attack. Okay, my opponent plays down to Parallel City. That's fine with me. I mean, I have a Rough Seas in my hand, and my opponent... Oh, of course I Ace Trainer him into a phenomenal hand. Of course that happens. I mean, it's just... Okay, it's funny at this point. It really is funny, because every time I've played Raikou... Or every time I've played a form of Raikou Electrode, and I've been able to Ace Trainer my opponent, every single time that I've done that, they've always drawn into something perfect. And, okay, yeah, we do see the... My opponent gets a Hex Maniac, of course he does. So that's sad. But, I mean, it's funny at this point that my opponent, whenever I Ace Trainer them, and it's only Ace Trainer. If I end them, sometimes it's able to stick. But I don't think I've had a single instance where an Ace Trainer has stuck with my opponent. I think every single time they've been able to draw out of it in one way or another. So it's just kind of funny, and it's just something that I've noticed. But either way, I am going to go ahead and Level Ball for an Electrode. And do I want to Sycamore and get rid of a bunch of energy? So there's 3 energy already in the discard pile. How do I want to play this? I think... So I could Lysandre in the other Darkrai, which I think I'm going to do. Just because, I mean, hitting this Darkrai doesn't put it in range of getting 2-shot by Energy Drive. Hitting this Darkrai does put it in range of getting 2-shot by Energy Drive, and also I don't have to get rid of more energy with... I won't have to get rid of a bunch of energy with Sycamore next turn, especially if I draw into a Koko, because I can just attach... Oh, never mind, I need a Koko. Or I need a Stadium as well. So, my opponent does play the EXP share onto his Darkrai, plays the Silent Lab down. That's going to be very, very annoying. Luckily, Electrode is not hit by Silent Lab, and my opponent ends me. I don't like N. I really don't like N. I mean, it's fine. Well, actually, never mind. I love you, N. N, you are the best thing to ever happen to me. That was honestly the perfect N that I got right there, so I'm very okay with this. Let's get rid of that Silent Lab so that my Shaymin and Kokos do have their abilities. Let's play the energy onto the... I mean, it really doesn't matter. Or overall, it doesn't matter because my play this turn I'm going for... The play that I'm going for is to get a Tapu Koko so that I can just throw that thing into play. And then just get my Tapu Lele out of the active spot. So I am just going to go ahead and do exactly what I said. Grab that Koko, play that down, Arrow Trail, get all 3 energy on there, and then I'll be able to one-shot my opponent's Darkrai with a, well, not one-shot, but one-shot from here with a Sky High Claws and go from there. And then I still have my Tapu Thunder as a threat. That way, if my opponent is thinking, oh, I can just kind of play down a bunch of energy to try to get rid of this Koko, I'd be like, I'm only 2 prizes away from winning, and I can always just Tapu Thunder if you get 4 energy into play. So, right here, just going to Sky High Claws. Like I said, I put an energy on the Lele, just in case I need to retreat it or something. My opponent does keep the energy in play, which actually works out better for me in this case. Because, okay, if he Lysanders up the Lele and knocks it out, I mean, I'm still just going to be able to one-shot him with a... Actually, how much... Never mind. So, if he just keeps the amount of energy in play that he has right now, and doesn't attach or anything, he'll be able to one-shot my Lele. Well, I keep saying one-shot, but he'll be able to finish off my Lele with just a regular Dark Pulse or Dark Head, whichever one he wants to go for, and then I'll have to like try to Lysander in the Shaymin in order to get a knockout. Oh, that's another thing. Even if my opponent still just plays 3 energy and keeps 3 energy on the board and keeps attacking like that, I can always just Lysander in that Shaymin for the win if I draw into that type of stuff. So my opponent is just going to Super Rod a couple Darkrai back into his deck. Let's see. Okay, if he hits this Max Elixir, then I just win. Okay, he hits it. So I do win at this point. I will be able to knock out this Darkrai in 1 hit. I mean, that being said, if my opponent just retreats him out, he has to retreat into the Yveltal in order to keep from losing at this point. Because otherwise, Tapu Thunder will be able to one-shot the Darkrai. And especially because he will 100% not be able to play Fighting Fury Belt onto it, then that's even better. Actually, hold on. With the Fighting Fury Belt, even if my opponent played a Fighting Fury Belt onto his Darkrai, because of the 10 extra damage, I'll be able to knock it out. No. Never mind. Disregard what I'm saying. But because my opponent has 4 energy in play... Oh, he Escape Ropes. That's a good play. What I am going to do is just go right into my... what do I want to go into? Do I want to just promote Voltorb? I mean, either way, I'll have to pay a retreat cost in order to be able to get out of there. But do I offer up the Lele? I think, yeah, I'm going to offer up the Lele, try to tempt him into switching back into the Darkrai and trying to knock it out. But I mean, otherwise, I'm still fine. Okay, he does just Oblivion Wing, gets more energy in play. That's fine. I'm just going to retreat into my Tapu Koko, one-shot this Yveltal, hit it for a ton of damage because of weakness. And, ooh, I even get a Max Elixir. So, let's just go ahead and play the energy onto the Lele. Because, I mean, might as well, just because that thing can attack later if I need it. Let's Max Elixir. Ooh, I hit it. Not bad. Play it onto that Lele. Play the Fighting Fury Belt onto the Shaymin just because. And then let's go ahead and Lillie for 3 more cards. Okay. So, I have the VS Seeker for next turn to be able to Lysander in the Shaymin if I need. I'm going to put a bunch of energy back in the deck just so I have that. And then let's Sky High Claws, knock out the Yveltal with, I mean, yeah, just a bunch of overkill. My opponent gets to keep the energy into play, but it really doesn't matter as I'm still going to be able to Tapu Thunder his Darkrai. And yeah, there's really nothing my opponent can do at this point because he has to promote the Darkrai. And he cannot put up another Yveltal. He can't put up anything else to avoid being knocked out. The only thing he could potentially do is play down a Darkrai and then retreat into it. And then just not play another energy. Because the second he has that 4th energy on board, I just win the game. He will Lysander up my Lele. Just take a couple prizes with that Dark Pulse. So, I mean, good play. Good play on my opponent. I mean, that's... He goes down to 2 prizes, but at this point, there's enough energy in play that I will be able to just win with the Tapu Thunder. So, just going to go for that. Knock out this Darkrai, win the game, didn't even need to bring in the Shaymin, and yeah, that was the game against a Turbo Darkrai deck. So I actually got a match against a pretty standard and competitive deck. Well, not it hasn't been truly standard in the Guardians Rising meta because that meta has yet to be defined, and I'm not sure how good it's going to be because it relies a lot on items, and Garbodor is going to be everywhere in this new format. But either way, it was a competitive deck nonetheless in the Sun and Moon format, so I consider that a pretty solid win if we're able to take down that type of deck with the deck that we are using right now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this Electrode version of Tapu Koko. If you want to see just a quad Koko with a bunch of healing, check out Aurabomb's channel. It's a really cool version of the deck I just decided to go with. Get a bunch of energy on board and keep moving it around to different stuff, especially with a more emphasis on Raikou. So again, hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.